president. KEA, along with the CAC, tried to coordinate this little event. It looks like we have a very nice little intimate group here. If you have any questions, we have note cards and pens, and after you fill your question, just raise it up and we'll come around and get it. I want to, the board members will be introduced shortly, or the future board members. And I do want to thank Terry Borg, he's our moderator this evening, for coming out and pretty much going to run the show for us. So thank you again for coming out. I know that everyone's very busy. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Terry Borg, and I'm very pleased to act as your moderator here this evening. Since 1999, I've been very involved with the Kaneland School District in serving a number of different capacities. Currently, I serve on the Citizens Advisory Council for the Board of Education. And I have to tell you, it's probably my most enjoyable experience looking at almost 20 years of service to the district. I say that because the Citizens Advisory Committee does many things, but most importantly, it advises the board on issues, it gives feedback to the administrators of the district, and we try to draw the community into the various programs that the district has to offer. With that in mind, we are now seeking members. So I want you to think about serving as a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I think we've got an informational table over there. So in case you'd like to find out more information about how you can be more involved in the district, I would highly recommend you stop by the table this evening. The CAC is one of two partnering organizations that are putting on this event this evening. The other organization is the Kaneland Education Association, or better known as the KEA. The KEA is the representative organization of the teachers in our district. These educational professionals promote positive, collaborative relationships amongst its members, the administration, the school board, and the community in partnering to provide quality education for our children. I want to thank the KEA for their efforts and their work on this evening. Thank you. So with those two organizations in mind putting on this event this evening, we also want to thank any current board members that are with us this evening. Do we have any current board members? I think I saw Gail, I'm sorry, Gail. Pavlik, she's on my list. Gail Pavlik, as well as Teresa Witt's in the back there too. Let's just read Teresa Witt, Veronica Poole. Is Veronica here? No? But Ryan Carey is here. Is Peter there? Peter Logan? Right there, great. I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. Obviously, those 4 people, I think if I count correctly, are not going to be up for election this year, but we have 3 open seats. These 3 open seats will be voted on April the 4th. We want you to also go ahead and check the websites of your county clerks to find out early voting dates, times, and locations. So we have 3 positions open on the board, and we have 4 candidates. And those 4 candidates include Pedro Rivas, Noah Little, Aaron Lawler, and Shauna Sparber. So this evening we're going to have an opportunity to ask these 4 candidates questions to get a better idea about how they might serve in the role as a board member. So here's the format. This is how this is going to work. So first of all, we're going to give each candidate 3 minutes for a brief introduction. By the way, we have a timekeeper this evening, and if you see her raise her hand like that, then you'll be clued in that the candidate has 30 seconds left for their opportunity to give a response. When she says time, we would ask that the candidate then stops mid-sentence wherever you're at. We're trying to keep this fair. So our timekeeper will keep us right in place here. I have the opportunity to ask these predetermined questions that have been formulated, but we will also take questions from the audience. And we really ask you to take some time to think through a question that you'd like asked. When you have a question written down on a card, I think we've got cards and pens available. Raise your hand if you don't have one, you want to ask a question. The cards then will be taken from you, and then will be taken over to this area where we'll kind of aggregate them so we're not being repetitive and asking the same questions over and over again. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes per question. I have the prerogative as the moderator to ask a follow-up if I don't think the question was answered clearly enough. I hope that will not be necessary. At the end of the program this evening, we will go ahead then and give each candidate 3 minutes for closing statements. I should also note that the program is being recorded over there. If our videographer has any difficulty with sound or whatever else, let us know, because the recording then will be placed on a website. Tell your friends to tune in, and then they'll be able to go ahead and watch this candidate forward as well. So with that, I would like each candidate to begin by sharing with us an opening statement. And one other rule, just so you know, to be fair about this, we're going to start with the first opening statement with Shauna and work down the table that way. And then the second question, we're going to go over to Aaron and have Aaron start, and then Shauna to bring up the back end. So with that, Shauna Spark, opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone for coming out tonight. I'd just like to take a moment to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me very well yet. I became involved in the district shortly after my husband and I moved here.
Thank you. Is this better? Yay! Okay, I became involved in the district about soon after my husband and I moved here about 14 years ago. I've served in many roles in the district on the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Finance Advisory Committee. In those groups, I was membership chair, secretary, and participated on a strategic planning group for the district. Most recently, I was appointed to the board in October to fill a vacant seat. And I've been dedicated to understand the issues that are facing the district over this time, and I'm really looking forward to continuing that, to find ways to improve even more on the school board. I'm a mother of 3 daughters, 2 here at the middle school and 1 at the high school. Professionally, I'm a certified public accountant. I've been an auditor for the last 10 years at a CPA firm. Prior to that, I've served in different roles in both public and private accounting, serving as controller and director of accounting and finance in various companies. So I think my finance background will be something that I can draw on and utilize that on the school board as well. Kaneland has many things to be proud of, but there's always ways to improve as well. I think Kaneland 2020 is a place that defines the district goals, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that come to life over the next few years. For example, I think our student experience and achievement will be improved by creating truly personalized educational experiences with rigor and relevance for all of our students. Achieving the district goals within the economic realities of our district are always a challenge, but I think with the dedicated educators and administrators and community members like myself that are committed to success, I think we can do well. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Little. I'm sorry, Mr. Lawler, I'm sorry. I'm not quite seeing your names.
That's okay. Can you hear me? First, I want to say thank you to the Kaneland Education Association and the Kaneland Citizens Advisory Council for having me here today and giving me an opportunity to introduce myself and to talk to you about some of my ideas about what I can bring to the board. Like the moderator said, my name is Aaron Lawler. I'm happily married to my best friend, Amy Lawler. I've been with her for 16 years. We've been married for 8. And we live in Montgomery. We moved to Montgomery 6 years ago. Prior to that, we lived in Yorkville, and I grew up in the Foxville area. I grew up in the neighborhood, so we've been here most of our lives. I have 2 beautiful kids, James, who is going to be 3 in April, and I have a brand new baby, Tess, who is 2 months old. So, as you can tell, my life is pretty exciting already. So I have a toddler and an infant, but I'm adding more to it as we go. I thought I'd start by saying a little bit about my background and my career highlights, because I think that's actually my strongest asset and what I bring best to the board. I'm a professor at Levancy Community College. I've been there for 5 years. This is my first full-time year there. I'm their first full-time humanities instructor they've had. Prior to that, I had 11 years experience at Plainfield Central High School. Plainfield School District is the 3rd largest school district in the state. And I served there 11 years as a teacher, as well as a negotiator on the contract committees, and a number of other volunteer positions and clubs and organizations. So I've been teaching for about 15 years total. Prior to working at Plainfield, I worked at elementary school, and I have 6 or 7 years as a part-time teacher at various universities in the area as well. I'm a PhD candidate at Concordia University in educational leadership. I was expected graduation date somewhere around 2019, so I believe I'll be able to bring that as well to the school board. I have a MA, so a master's degree in humanities, a master's degree in curriculum development with a specific focus on e-learning, and so that touches not just on adding digital technology to the classroom, but also personalizing learning. And then lastly, before I became a teacher, I served, or I worked 8 years at Walgreens Corporation. So I put myself through college by working at the assistant manager level, and eventually moved my way up to the corporate office through an internship program. I worked there business management and marketing intern, and eventually became an executive manager. I did leave my role at Walgreens to pursue a full-time career in teaching. My community work includes, I'm on WTTW Channel 11's programming committee, so one of the roles we do is decide on what we're going to put out there, it's programming-wise, for public broadcasting and children education. And then I serve on a number of different committees over at Bonds Community College that help service the community. Specifically things like career mentoring, volunteering. I had one of the organizations that does a lot of things with the soup kitchen, Feed My Starving Children, homeless shelters, those things. Thank you.
Great, let's move on now to Mr. Noah Little.
Good evening, everyone. First, I would actually like to send my condolences out to the family and friends of Travis Meyer, who was a Kaneland senior that just passed away tragically this past weekend, and to the entire Kaneland community in the time of mourning and loss of one of our fellow knights. I also want to thank the Citizen Advisory Committee and the Kaneland Education Association for hosting tonight's forum, and to all the district administration staff at Kaneland Community and members in attendance this evening. Again, my name is Noah Little, and I'm a proud person to be running for a seat on the Kaneland School Board this year. I was raised in a small rural farming community in southern Minnesota, moved down to the Chicago area in 2002, been living in Sugar Grove for the past 10 years. And during that time, my wife and I, we have two beautiful children. We have a son, Jackson, who's at McDowell Elementary School, and we also have a daughter, Madeline, who's here at Harder Middle School. She's a 7th grader here. Professionally, though, I've been involved in various aspects of public education. I've been in public education for 19 years. First starting out as an elementary school teacher, moving into a middle school teaching position, coach boys basketball, and moved into the assistant principal role, and now an elementary school principal on the east side of Aurora. I feel my experience working with such a large district currently in various districts have given me that background and education experience to serve Kaneland School District and also to provide the highest quality education for our students. And I'm a true, strong, vigorous supporter of public education. But as a Kaneland parent, which I also am as too, so you always have to shift that role from being an educator to being a parent as well too. I'm committed to the success of our district, not only for my own kids, but for the future generations of the Kaneland children. For the past 3 years, I've served on the Kaneland Finance Advisory Committee, and serving on this committee has given me the opportunities to understand a little bit more about the budgets, the finances, which pretty much fund and run our school districts, and to ensure that we have long-term stability and growth. So I kind of felt like, to the point where feeling it's a time to take that next step and venture into a new role in public education, and that's why I'm pursuing a seat on the board, if elected. I just feel like that's a great transition to go from where I've been to where I'm at now. So I have more time to devote to the district, but also I experience firsthand what it's like to be a Kaneland parent here in the district. So, and finally, I would just like to say I'm proud to be a Knight. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Pedro Rivas.
Buenas noches y bienvenidos. For those of you guys that are trying to look it up in Google, I'll help you. Good evening and welcome. First of all, I'd like to thank those that had a hand in putting this together. Thank you, gracias. And thank you for those here tonight as you choose to get involved in the process. In lieu of time, it is very valuable. I'll make this short and sweet. I'm a community member for the last 24 grateful, rewarding years. I'm very humbled to have served the school board district for the last 3.5 years. I look forward to continue working, supporting, and challenging all parties involved in the education of our children's great minds. I look at it as an opportunity, yet a challenge at times, but embrace everyone's input and differences of opinions as we reach decisions that are in the best interest of our Kaneland students and our community at large. As a volunteer position, yes, this does take away from family time. Dedication time that I embrace while giving back to our community, while much appreciation for my family's backing. Yes, my friends keep asking if I had my head examined, as I want to continue doing this. And I tell them yes, at this capacity, absolutely. I hope to continue receiving your support as you vote for Pedro in the upcoming election.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. So now let's move on to our first question of this evening. And again, noting our order, we'll start with Aaron. And the first question for this evening is, what do you believe is the role of a school board member? And what is your understanding of the extent and limits of the authority of a board member?
Sure, thank you. So I believe that first and foremost, a school board member is an advocate and a servant. I firmly believe that a school board member should not bring a personal agenda to the table, and that we should be the voice of the community that we're serving and the constituents we're serving. So when I was out on the campaign trail and meeting the parents and the community members and getting signatures, I listened to those stories, and I think those stories are what fueled me to want to continue to pursue this. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to listen to what people have to say and bring that and voice that concern to the board itself, to the administration, to the teachers and whatnot. This includes things like community, family values, and education. My loyalty is to that, to the community, to the parents, to the family values that we promote, and to the education that serves the 21st century and the global marketplace. And I believe that's what the school board should focus on primarily. But then also try to open up communication as much as we can with the constituents and the people in the area. So for instance, some of the stories I heard, Jason in Montgomery, he was telling me that he can't help his kids with his homework because they don't understand Common Core. I think we can do that. I think the school board can help them get an understanding of what Common Core is. I think the teachers can help them provide other materials to support them. Christina said that her daughter spends too much time on the bus, and so she can't go to piano lessons. She's playing the piano on the back of someone's school bus seat as opposed to playing it at home. I think that's something we can also address. We can think about how transportation and organization works. Mark said he was for school choice, which I'm adamantly against. I believe in public education, but I think we should listen to Mark and ask him why he believes in school choice and what those merits bring to the table. So that's my plan. My plan is to listen to people and bring those voices to the school board.
Thank you. Noah, same question.
Some of the things that Aaron mentioned are very strong and dear to my heart as well too. But when I look at the responsibilities of a board member, you don't come in with goals in mind. You come in with making sure that we always understand that we're always keeping our students first and foremost. So any decision that we make as a board, we need to consider the students first. So if we make decisions, we need to make sure that with those students, that every decision we make revolves around them. Also, as a board, I mean, our number one job is also to supervise and evaluate our superintendent who's carrying out the district's mission, visions, and goals, which then trickles down to the principals, the teachers, all the way down to our parapros, to every single person who works with those students, and to ensure that everyone's following through with that plan, because in the end, it's about the student achievement and the education of our students. The other thing is to make sure that we're holding everybody accountable through student achievement and measuring progress towards those goals. I believe in the district here we have high expectations, and as we move forward we want to continue to do that as well. I took a lot of time to kind of analyze a little bit with the Vision 2020 plan, and what I see is that's the direction that the district's moving forward now with that. As a board member, looking at the three areas of personalized learning, human resources, and culture, kind of looking at that and understanding how we can support the superintendent in moving the district forward, but also making sure that we're communicating that on down so that we hear all the values and the voices of everybody at the table. And I know I got my 30-second hand raise already there, so it goes pretty quick with these 2 minutes. And just the final thing is to bring to the board the value of everyone being able to share openly their ideas, suggestions, and be able to argue fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. Pedro?
As far as the board member is concerned, as far as my views, obviously to represent the community, and up and foremost that our children get the values of education as best as we can present to them. As far as the responsibilities and my role, and I'll continue, is basically two simple things. It's following policy, setting policy, and overseeing the budget and working with administration to get that as close as we can get it to balance, and when not, then work to get it there as we're struggling right now with those numbers right now. But great faith in the organization and the administration that we have, and working with them. The responsibility of the board member, it's an ever-changing thing. One day you'll have a different, or meeting to meeting, you have different things you have to challenge yourself with. At the end of the day, there's 7 of us. We work together very well presently with those that we have, with my peers, and at the end of the day, we walk away with whatever decision we make.
Thank you, Pedro. Shauna?
I think the primary function of a school board member is to really work in a positive and collaborative way with all the stakeholders and make sure we're really focused on Kaneland's mission. Board members should be really engaged in the community as well. I think that's a very important role for board members. They need to really understand the concerns of people in the community, understand what their issues are, and also foster trust. I think they need to be that link between the community and the superintendent and the educators and the people who work in the district. A school board member should obviously also monitor the district's performance, which is really student achievement. It's also, as they have mentioned, they serve as the mechanism to hold the superintendent accountable as well. So I think my biggest thought on, as they've mentioned, on being a member of the school board is really to work together. So as a team that we can accomplish more than what one of us could accomplish individually. And I do think that's currently the dynamic on the school board now, which is a pleasure to be a part of.
Great, thank you, Shauna. So we'll now move on to our second question. We'll begin with Noah. And the question really focuses on strategic planning. What do you believe the most important goals for Kaneland are for the next 2 to 3 years? Is this covered in the strategic plan, Kaneland's 2020, or how would you like to see it implemented?
I've just got the opportunity just in the past couple of weeks to get the first glance at what the strategic plan kind of covers. So I'll answer it the best I can just because I'm still trying to analyze it as I know the district is just beginning to roll it out. So there's a lot of parts of it that are still probably unclear to me as well too. But I do know with the 3 areas of being personalized learning, human resources, and culture, I kind of asked myself, why were those 3 chosen? And that's a question I can't answer tonight, of course, but I know that there's been a lot of involvement with the administration, the teachers, and the community involved with the strategic plan. But what I see the goals in the next few years are is, you know, I look up at the wall up there where it says college, career, and community ready. In the next couple of years, I mean, we're always preparing our students for college, career, and community ready, but the question always is what does that mean? What does that mean to our students when they graduate here from Kaneland High School? What does that mean for our students who are in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade? What are we actually preparing them for? And that kind of ties back to that personalized learning piece of it. So making sure that we are meeting the needs of all the students through personalized learning. Don't know what that looks like yet. And I know that's something the district's figuring out. But we still have to continue to move towards that strategic plan and what that's going to look like. But holding our students, of course, accountable, our teachers accountable to ensure that our students are making that progress to where they need to be. So when you look at goals for the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, you develop a plan, you need to carry that plan out. Thank you.
Thank you. Pedro?
Strategic plan. There's a lot of time and effort that was placed to put the strategic plan together from all varieties of people involved, from students all the way to the community and and the administration and teachers and what have you. If I were to pick, and all of this obviously comes together at the very end if you put it all together, but I like to pick one out, and I'm always focusing on the students and the personalized learning aspect of it. I believe is key. Again, we're still rolling it out. As a matter of fact, there's going to be a lot of talk in reference to it coming about. But the fact that there's adjustments of looking at an individual student and adjusting to them to get them in the right path, and at the end is college and career ready.
Sean?
I think the strategic plan is definitely a very good one, but what I said is in my opening is I'm really excited to see it come to life, because as they've kind of mentioned, it on a piece of paper doesn't have a lot of meaning, but how it gets implemented it isn't clear yet, but I'm really excited about what it's going to bring. I would agree that goals are all about people, schools are full of people, so obviously the primary goal is students. I think we need to ensure that our students get the most out of their Kaneland experience. The strategic plan calls for personalized learning, and it says with rigor, relevance, and relationship is the top priority. I think teachers are already striving to differentiate their instruction in the classroom, but to me at least, personalized learning expands more than a classroom experience. It really takes kind of the whole Kaneland experience as a whole and tries to make sure that's personalized for each and every student, which I think could be have significant outcomes for them, and I'm very excited to be a part of that. I think developing relationships is key with students. If you're going to have personalized learning, you really need to know those students. And I think that's something that I'm very excited about to see in the strategic plan as well. Second, these buildings are full of kids, but they're also full of employees, and those people significantly influence our success as well. So I think it's important that the people coming to these buildings that are working here are excited about being here, and that we attract and retain quality people. And I think that will be a key to our success as well, and as a component of the strategic plan.
Thank you. Aaron?
So I'll start with this idea that kind of reiterating what Noah and Pedro said, that this is a newer thing that's going to be rolling, and so as we're both kind of learning what this thing is kind of looking like, personalized learning, human resources, and culture seem to go along with this bigger mantra, which is graduate all students, college, career, and community ready. And so I know as a community college teacher who draws in a large group of a number of Kaneland students, what you need to be in that school. Two big things I think should be part of that goal. Preserve the great education that Kaneland's already providing, and then continue to grow that education so that our children are most competitive in the global 21st marketplace. Now, those are pretty abstract ideas, so I think the best way to understand this is to go to the two groups that shape this, the parents and the teachers. So instead of saying, here's what the goal should be, I think we should go ask the parents and teachers, what do you guys think the goal should be? How do we get them there? And let's get these teams working together to make this happen. Because as they're on the front lines, they know exactly what they need to do to preserve that great education they're already using, but also to see what the future of education is going to look like, right? And so as you're including things like personalized learning, human resources, and culture, what do the teachers think those things should be? What does personalized learning look like in their classrooms? What are they already doing to do this? And then what about human resources and culture? How do we get the staff to tell us about what it's like to work with kids? And then culture, what about the parents? Can the parents tell us what they feel their kids are a part of, the schools are part of, the teachers are a part of? So again, I continue to go back to this idea of speaking to the people directly, because that's what I believe is the best way to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will start with Pedro, and again, it follows up on the theme of planning and prioritizing. What priority should our school district put on obtaining and retaining quality educators? How aggressive should the district be in offering competitive salaries and benefits to current and potential educators and all employees? Pedro?
I'll go directly to the meat of it, and that is, at the end of the day, we want to obviously retain the best of the best. There's negotiations that always happen to get what is good for both sides, and we have a budget to work with, and all those come in to play together. And yes, we want people to be successful as far as wanting to be here and at the same time reaching the goals of what the district has in educating our children.
Thank you. Sean?
I think attracting and retaining talent is, as I just mentioned, I think in the strategic plan is definitely a key to the success here. I think one important piece is for people to feel valued, and they can feel valued in many ways. And I think the relationship piece of our strategic plan, we talk about developing relationships with students. I think that's also important to staff. I think they need to, the same type of thing is important to them as well. So I think administrators and various people should have relationships with the people who work here and develop that as well. But another way to feel valued is definitely compensation as well, and I think that's important. I think we need to pay people fairly for the work that they do here. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I think talent retention is something that all organizations face. But there's two real ways I think we can address this. Obviously, compensation is going to be a big part of this, and so staying competitive is always going to be an issue to face. But we can do that financially and be financially responsible. But I think the second thing is as Shauna said, value. And I remember when I was out there talking to community members, I ran into this one lady, Carla, who was both a resident and a teacher. And she said, although I care about my salary, I care more about what I'm treated like or how I'm valued in that kind of way. And I think we have these wonderful teachers who have these amazing experiences. Why not tap that talent for other things as opposed to just teaching in the classroom? If we're looking for ways of being more environmentally sound, let's talk to our science teachers. If we're looking for ways of increasing literacy at the home, let's talk to our reading teachers and our reading specialists. Let's use the teachers and show them that we value their expertise. And then vice versa, the parents also bring so much value to the world. What are they doing in their careers? What are they doing in the community? How do we get them involved more in the classroom? How do we get them more involved in parent committees? At the beginning of this, you asked people to join the advisory committee, and that's one way we can reach out and try to bring more people into the schools and also bring the teachers back out of the schools into the community. And so I think, yes, compensation is always going to be a very big priority for things. And I think that last contract negotiation, some of those things are starting to be addressed. But I also think that we can value people in ways that aren't money related, and that sometimes goes much deeper and more satisfying than just the compensation.
Thank you.
Quality teachers is probably the number one, it's like the biggest impact on student achievement when you think about it. And based on student achievement, the number one factor in student achievement is the adults that are working with those students, no matter who it is. It's not the curriculum, it's not the resources, it's not the materials they're using, it's not those things. It's the adults that we put in front of them. And one of the, just a leadership thing, and it can come from the board and come from the administrators, is showing your staff, showing the people that you care about them, and if you show that you care about them, they will pretty much do whatever you want them to do. So it's really kind of reiterating that message to ensure that we retain quality teachers, is to ensure that we provide that support to those teachers. We show that we care about those teachers because they are making the biggest difference in the lives of our kids. The other question is, we want to ask ourselves too, as a district, is why are we not retaining quality teachers? So ensuring that our human resources department is looking into that to ensure that we're retaining the quality teachers, because we have some of the, and I've talked to plenty of teachers and administrators in our district, we have some of the most caring administrators and teachers in our district, and I've met so many of them over the past few years, through my kids' teachers, through other parents who made comments and shared those stories with me. We can't lose those good teachers, especially those first and second year teachers that are coming in. So ensuring that we're, ensuring that we are making sure that we retain those high quality teachers and keeping them here in the district.
Great, thank you. Just want to remind everybody, take a moment, write down any specific questions you can think of as you hear our panelists speak this evening. If there's something you want them to drill down on more specifically, please fill out a card and we'll be sure to ask them. When we talked about retaining teachers and Kaneland staff, each of you touched on the issue of finances, money. This next question focuses on that. What are your thoughts about the current financial challenges facing Kaneland and public education in general? Sean?
Boy, I guess I'll start with public education in general, because that one is, an incredible challenge that we're all facing. Clearly, the state of Illinois isn't providing adequate funding for public education, and also just the uncertainty, I think, is really a challenge as well. I think you expect schools to budget every year, but you budget based on unknowns of what you will receive from the state. So I think that's a challenge. But we do our best, and I think Kaneland does a very good job of taking those uncertainties and making the best of it, and looking at financial projections in the current year, and making educated guesstimates in the future to really do as much as they can with the finances that are there. So I think our financial position is stable. I've been here through the crazy growth and then the crazy economy. And the crazy economy was rough, and I appreciate that that's not the spot that we are anymore. I think there's been a lot of diligence by our administrators to kind of shore up our finances, and so I think we're in a solid place.
Thank you. Aaron?
I think budgets are always a challenge. I know at Wabansie, one of the things we've talked about, which Kaneland's probably facing similar, is that as the state's not finishing its budget, it's hard for us to find funds, so we have to be creative in the way we do that. What we've done at Wabansie is said that we're not going to operate as if we have those state funds. We're going to try to find ways of operating without the state funding. But that doesn't mean that we just start cutting, doing a bloodbath sort of thing, right? So 3 things I remember taking away from my career development programs at Benedictine was that you focus on people, place, and profit. And so in this case, profit would just be balancing your budget, because it's a nonprofit organization that you're looking at. But you also have to focus on people and place. And so the way you do that is you remember them first and then problem solve around them. So when I was at a board meeting a couple of weeks ago, one of the things I was really encouraged by was I heard a number of board members talking about creative problem solving solutions, right? Things that they knew that wasn't going to work, but they were throwing them out there anyways. For instance, they talked about putting wind farms out there, knowing that they couldn't do it, but it's just an idea that might happen. Or how the land is being used. Could we sell some of the land? I was encouraged by that, because the ideas were, let's look at ways that we can solve this problem, as opposed to always going to the easy way, which is just cutting, right? Cutting costs always make things easier, but they also put a lot of pressure on your staff and your people. And so I'm encouraged by that. I think that as the board has creative problem-solving skills, we can continue to push that. We need to make that more of a mainstay of what the board does, and more of the mainstay of the policies. And so let's continue to look at creative ways of solving budgets, and also considering how we can operate in the best possible way.
Thank you.
Finances and budget is not the most exciting thing that people want to talk about, because it involves money and numbers, but it also involves, always the possibility of cutting programs and things like that. And that's something here at Kaneland. I've served on the finance committee for the past 3 years. And something we've done as a committee is we've always looked at every possible situation or idea before we make a decision. And with that, we've listened to everyone's idea on that committee to ensure that what proposal that we're going to suggest or recommend to the board, even though the board has that final say on that, is something that's going to limit the impact on students. So we always keep the students first and foremost. The most difficult part right now is with the state of Illinois and funding schools. There's been lack of timely payments. There were times where we weren't 100% being fully funded. We have to be prepared to be ready for those, so we can't be proactive. We need to be ready when those things do come up. So ensuring that we have a budget that's sound, a budget that allows for room and flexibility in it. And once we get to the point where we approve a tentative budget, that budget goes through. But we also have to think back to what are some of those things that could get in the way. So having some type of a plan where we're prepared to handle any of those financial challenges that could come forth. And the one thing that always comes up is ensuring that any of those future obstacles, we don't have to get to the point where we have to make budget cuts. If anything, if we could make budget cuts, last thing that we would ever have to do to cut a program, to cut something with transportation or buses, that's something that we have to really consider, because in the end of the day, it affects the students one way or another. Thank you.
Pedro?
I'd like to give kudos to administration, those that present to us their budgets, their ideas, and such. And I'm really glad we have experienced people in those positions, because we are, despite despite how may look, maybe yes, there's some iffies, if you will, as far as what you see in the outside. There's a lot that's controlled in the background, if you will, and a lot that happens, which keeps our school system and our students going. As hard as it may be, they're doing a great job. We can't just, like for instance right now, we can't just say this is the budget that we can stay with. We got a plan to get us where we want to be and maintain. We got schools to maintain, we have teachers to pay. It all comes together. It's not just one thing. And again, kudos to the administration for putting their best foot forward for the board to make sound and realistic decisions.
Thank you. Just want to make the observation that I noticed no one here, everybody talked about potential cuts, but nobody talked about increasing taxes, which is an interesting comment that was made. When we're talking about issues, when we're talking about challenges, this question has been asked. What is the most pressing issue facing the Kaneland School District, and how do you feel it should be handled? And with that, we're going to start with Aaron.
Thank you. So I think the pressing issue for Kaneland is similar for the pressing issue for all public education. How do we get the most bang for our buck? How do we get the best quality education so our students are ready to compete in the global and digital marketplace? And I've said that before because I truly believe that's the two areas that we need to make sure our students are facing and tackling. And that means they need to have the right skills and the right knowledge to achieve those things. The way we ensure that, I think, is the way we measure our goals. And so you're probably familiar with it. It's called the SMART goal system. It's usually pretty successful. You start with specific goals, you measure them, you make them action-oriented, you make them relevant, you do them in time-based ways. I think that we look at how our students' curriculum is shaped, how the teaching is done, how the funding is allocated, and we make sure that we measure them with those SMART goals. And then we always bring them back to that idea of how will our kids compete globally as well as digitally. That doesn't necessarily mean that they all go the same path either. So the mantra is be community, be college, and be career ready. Well, let's get them for at least one or two of those avenues. So they can all be community ready, I think, by involving them. They can all be career ready, either through the trades or through college bound. And then we can make sure that they are successful when they get to the college bound world. And one way to do that is to give them that same skill set that you need to be successful in a digital world, a digital marketplace, as well as a global world.
Thank you. Alan?
The question was pressing issues and how do we move forward and handle that as a district. I don't see those as being pressing issues or challenges currently in the district. Some of those challenging issues with finances, state payments, budgets, and things like that, that's just out of our control. And what I think I still refer back to being preparing our students for college and career and community ready. It's not really a pressing issue to me. It's about moving our students forward. It's about moving the district forward. So instead of looking at them as pressing issues, we look at those more as opportunities to learn and move forward and grow as a district. The topic on the finance committee of a pressing issue that always comes up is transportation and buses. Okay, it's buses, transportation, we talk about that a lot. But we never made it an issue that has come to light as in this is a big issue that we can't fix or we can't solve. But we know that we need to have buses to get our kids to and from school on a day-to-day basis. And that's something that we ensure that we have the right buses, the best buses to make sure we get those kids to school. So to handle that, we ensure that we have those buses that we need. And another thing too is when you look at pressing on issues is looking at those as opportunities. So looking at opportunities and how we can grow as a district. And one of those is to ensure our kids are college, community, and career ready. And I'm going to continue to come back to students first, students first, students first.
Thank you. Pedro?
I think we just passed a time frame when we had pressing, I don't want to call them issues. I usually turn issues to opportunities. And I say that because of the fact that we just gone through a big process of getting some contracts out, especially during KEA. membership, and they work very well with us, and actually we actually pushed it out on an additional, got the 4th year out of it to help our administration breathe, if you will, and at the same time keep on going with focusing and give us an extra year before we have to face it again. So kudos to everybody that put that together. So it's a positive thing. As far as it's budget. I mean, some of the things we have to face, at least from the board's perspective. The distribution of funds, allocating what we fix this year, what we fix next year, what we put off. Again, kudos to the administration putting all that stuff together and making our job easier.
Thank you. And Sean.
To me, the issues really come back to students. So when I talk to parents in the district or students that have just graduated and they tell me that they don't feel that they're college, career, community ready, that's hard. That's hard to hear. So even if we hit the mark for a vast majority of the people who leave, I think, who graduate here, I think you think of those handful of kids that don't have that feeling, and I think that's the most pressing issue. So to me, that I get excited about, again, the personalized learning and really focusing on each individual student. I think we need to ensure that our students have a strong foundation, including the critical and creative thinking skills, because as they've mentioned, the future isn't clear of what kind of skills they need, but we know that they need those general ones. So I think we just need to be able to offer our students a variety of experiences so they can truly find their passion here at Kaneland.
Thank you. One of the members in the audience tonight identified there is a challenge, and the challenge that this person writes about is this. There is a challenge in this district to get community members involved actively. Part of the challenge is because we serve many communities, not just one. What ideas do you have to get more of the community actively involved in this district's goals and plans? And we'll start with Mel.
Number one is, there's a table right over there, the finance and the CAC committees is one way to get people involved as well too. And I've talked to a number of teachers that actually work at my school who live in Alberta and in other areas within the community. And in our Kaneland School District, we encompass so many different communities in so many different areas. That's a big challenge for us. We have our rural farming community. We have Caneville, we have Maple Park, part of Virgil, Aurora. We have Sugar Grove. We have so many different areas, and when you go in each of those areas, when I was out getting my signatures for my petition to run for school board, they're very unique communities, and I think the best way is through involvement, okay, getting yourselves involved, coming to board meetings. I was at the last board meeting, and I did not see a lot of community members there, so it's really pulling that together, and I think one way that we can do that as a school district or as a board is to provide that to the superintendent and to the administrators to be able to get all of our communication out there to every community in any media, shape, or form, so they have that information, so that information can then be shared. But a lot of the communication comes from word of mouth. So it's me telling my neighbor telling somebody else. So there's a lot of that active involvement that should be done that way as well.
Thank you. Pedro?
One of the biggest opportunities that I see year after year that get people involved is obviously when the children participate in extracurricular activities and such. And just to name a few, football season, soccer season, some yes more attended than others, more participation and such. But I know that the administration has been, and in high schools and such, have been very active in trying to think of those. As an example, for those of you that were in Caneville this past fall, we have a parade for the football homecoming, and they're jumping from community to community, so each community gets to host it eventually. So I think it was a great idea, and as if I recall the report, there was more people participated this last year than the previous year, which is we've been at it for 2 years. I know the communication aspect of it, those are the things that we've discussed. As from those that have access to the internet. We just revamped our website. We're very fortunate to have a community member that did a state-of-the-art website that we get an opportunity to change it as we need to. There's opportunities that have been passed around. Thank you. Been passed around through the chambers of commerce and such to give people more input and opportunities to also serve the community.
Thank you. Sean?
I definitely echo that the committee involvement here at the district is such a wonderful experience. I served on the CAC for 12 years, I think, and the FAC for 5. And membership in those committees has gone down over my time here. So I think I do see evidence that community involvement would be great if it could be increased. I think the current president of the CAC and the FAC are going to great lengths this fall to put forth a membership drive, and I am excited to see if we can engage some more community members that way. And I also agree that I know the district has been kind of surveyed, I think it was this fall, to think about events that are just sort of those signature events for the district, to sort of honor our past and to also make new traditions in the future. And I agree with Pedro, the homecoming parade is definitely a big example of that. But I think as we can think of ways that we've done it before or new ways into the future of ways that will bring the whole community together, I think that's very important to keep involvement.
Thank you. Aaron?
So I think one of the things you want to start with is it meaningful? Do people find meaning doing it? And is it easy to access it? So as community members, maybe and participation in these committees is lower, is it because it's no longer meaningful for them, or is it no longer easy for them to access it? For instance, we can open up communication so that stakeholders feel that it's more open, more honest, and more transparent, so that board members, administration, teachers, parents can all talk together in very open and honest ways, address questions in real ways. And then there's other ways to look at things like, I'm a part of the Kaneland Moms group, even though I'm not a mom. I'm a part of the Parents with Special Needs group, even though I'm a child with special needs. I joined those Facebook groups so I could try to reach out and meet people and talk to people in modern ways. And the way to do that is, okay, if Facebook is a place that people are actually doing these community things, maybe we should take a look at that. Because people will organize, people will meet on their own. Instead of saying, okay, well, you're not doing it the way we want you to do it, let's see how they're doing it and see if we can't replicate that or maximize that or build upon that. Right? So I think one of these ways is using more technology. People need easy access. We have an enormous district. It's terribly difficult to get from all over the place. But we can make that smaller through technology, right? So we could do Facebook Live sessions. We could broadcast live sessions at the board meetings. We can do a lot of things to try to get people more actively participatory through technology, through the ways they're already doing this, and then just maximize that. And I think the reason is, let's make it meaningful, let's make it purposeful, and then people will come.
Thank you. I want to once again remind the audience that if you have any questions you'd like to have asked, please forward this question up. I'm happy to give one and more specific to your interests. I'm going to change it up a little bit, Pedro, and ask you a question more from the national perspective. And this question that's here states, what is your personal philosophy on the school choice movement favored by Secretary Betsy DeVos? What political action would you take?
At that level, it's pretty much handed to us. We have to abide by it, but no, seriously. My view on, in reading the potentials that may be coming down the stream and such are that as long as the community, the student in particular, is taken care of, and it's a positive thing for everyone, as opposed to ruining communities, whether it's a voucher system or whether it's any other kind of system may be presented along the paths and such. As long as I think there is a, I'm willing to listen, I guess is what I'm saying, and at the same time, make sure that wherever I can, if I have a voice in it, be able to share my views on it to the end of the day, take care of the community and the student.
Sean?
I'm a big proponent of public schools, so I think that first and foremost, we need to make sure that there's enough funding for the public schools in Illinois. And I think typically what I've heard about the school choice is that would divert needed funds from the public schools elsewhere. And financially, I don't think that the state of Illinois has enough funds to make that happen. So I think communities need to offer a high level of public education to the communities, and I think we're doing that at Kaneland. So especially in our area, I don't think that school choice is necessary.
Thank you. Eric?
So like the fellow board members up here, I truly believe in public education. I spent 11 years in it. I'm teaching at a community college, which is publicly funded. But when I was on the campaign trail, I ran into Mark from Sugar Grove, and he told me he would not sign my form because I was not for school choice. And I stopped him and said, okay, I'm with you, I understand what you're saying. Help me understand what you're thinking. Why is school choice important to you? And he listed a handful of things. He said that he wasn't sure that the values taught in the public school were the same ones that he wanted to be taught. He wasn't sure that this public school could meet the different abilities of different students. And he was truly concerned about property taxes, which I think at the end of the day was one of his biggest issues, was he didn't want to see his property taxes go up anymore. I didn't agree with anything he said. I thought everything he said was kind of ludicrous and like that. But that's not my role as a school board member. My role as a school board member is to listen to what he has to say and see, okay, what can we take away from that is positive? And the idea here is that you can think outside the box, you can think inside the box, but the rule should be we should think both outside and inside. We should think above it. So what can we do? Can we bring some of the good things that come from school choice into public education? Because to say that everything about school choice is bad doesn't really make sense. It doesn't mean that we should adopt it. It doesn't mean that we should promote it. It just says, what are the good things, what are the positives, and maybe we can address those things. Maybe we can say, okay, Mark, you're worried about your property taxes. I understand that. We're looking at budgets. We're looking at the way we're doing our finances, and we're going to address it in a meaningful way. You're worried about the abilities and being able to meet all of our students' needs. We can do that too, and here's how we're doing that. And maybe we do that conversation, and that makes it not such a bad pill to swallow.
Thank you. No?
Like I said earlier about public education in my opening statement, I'm a true believer of public education. And from hearing from the three other candidates up here just now, you can tell they're all true supporters of public education. One thing I've already done is contacted our local politicians to make sure that they've got our voices heard, that I truly don't believe in the school vouchers. I don't believe that. If we're giving our students the best possible education, I think we're doing a really good job. So I'm a strong proponent against school vouchers and diverting public dollars away from our schools into the private schools so those students can get an education, because I believe truly in Kaneland we are giving our students the best possible education with the resources, the teachers, the staff, and administration that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question really focuses and has you really drill down to give the audience some sense about where you fall in terms of how you make prudent judgments. So here's the question. What is your personal philosophy on the give and take between continuing to add money to the district's general fund balance versus hiring more teachers and staff to lower class size and/or making sure all employees' salaries are on par with neighboring districts? So, in effect, the question is asking about priorities. Sean?
I think one challenge with the way maybe that was framed a bit is, in general, I think the district has recurring revenues and those need to match recurring expenses. So one concern I have is when you use fund balance to pay for salaries is that it runs out. And so to hire people to then not be able to afford them the next year is a troubling practice for me. So I think what we're really looking to do is set a sustainable budget that we can work on, that can be maintained year after year. There is a fund balance that we have, and I know several years ago when we went through cuts, we had to go through significant cuts and there wasn't a fund balance, and that is a difficult place to be. So I'm appreciative at this point that we have a fund balance. I think we're using that fund balance just to kind of balance the uncertainty of certain factors that are in our assumptions. So in that respect, I think it's very important that we're trying to minimize any impact on educators, because we have a fund balance that can give us a safety net right now. And so I think that's fantastic. And the fund balance, I think, is great to use for significant capital expenditures that we have coming up as well. So I definitely have the priority of paying people a fair salary, but we definitely have to do it in a way that there's the ability to maintain that.
Aaron?
I don't necessarily think it's an either-or sort of question. I think it's just a way of how we do things and how we put the operations in effect, right? So I know that we want to balance the budget first and foremost, and that makes sense. We don't want to have overhanging sort of debts or these kinds of things. We want to make sure that we're operating within our means, just like all of our families are trying to do as well. So we all understand this. This is, you can balance a household budget while you can balance a school budget, but that's the idea. So, but after that, just like we do with ourselves, like, do I really need all the cable channels, or can I cut some of the cable channels and then do other things? How do we prioritize? So I think you maintain the general fund where it needs to be in order to stay safe and operate in a safe way. But then you also look at things like class sizes and salaries and determine what's the best impact for our students. Research continues to show class sizes that are small, children do better at those sort of things. So is there a way that we can do both? Can we address everything? Are we maximizing all our potentials? One way to do this is to forecast, right? So to look at how trends have existed here in Kaneland, look at trends for like districts either across the state or across the country, and see how they're addressing those things. And then how does our budget line up? Are we being too aggressive in our general fund? Are we being too defensive with our general fund? Are we being too aggressive with our class sizes? Or are we being too defensive back and forth, right? And it's always going to be a pendulum. So you'll swing one way and have to auto-correct from the next way. I think that's how the budget should work. You look at it, you see where it's at, you make a little tweak here, and then you realize maybe that was wrong, and you move a little bit back and forth. But as long as your goal is improvement, I think you're in the right direction.
Thank you. Joe?
This is an interesting question because in the district here we have a fund balance, and we don't want to store away money, of course, and just have money sit there, but we want to ensure we have a fund balance established based on board policies and guidelines, which are in line with the state guidelines and laws as well too. But if we give the public the knowledge saying we're storing money in the fund balance, it makes us look bad. But what I'm saying is we need to maintain that fund balance so if we get into situations where 5 buses break down, we need to replace 5 buses. We need to have that there so it's there to take care of those situations. When it comes down to cuts and things like that, I think what we've done as a district in serving on the finance committee for the past 3 years and working with Julianne and the committee, the administration here has done a fantastic job of ensuring that the budget is fiscally sound and that we're responsible to our taxpayers, to the citizens, and of course, always keeping our students first and foremost. So if we lose sight of our students, we lose sight of what our overall goals are going to be.
Thank you. Pedro?
Fund balance. Can't use it for recurring cost. As I mentioned to some of these other individuals, as far as adding to it, we do have a limit that we strive to meet. And at the same time, like right now, we're actually diving into it to keep from having to reduce or cut, and we have to maintain. Had we not had it there, we would have to take actions the other way. As far as so at the same time, we'd also have to prepare for some of those things as just recently in the budget that was presented in Illinois. One of the parts that was in there was tax freeze. That happens. That's a big chunk we have to find somewhere. I love the opportunity to have that luxury there that we can go after it. We talked earlier about those funding that the state's 1-2 payments behind, and we get to a position where we have to pay out of that. Yes, borrow it per se, but then we know we're good that we're able to pay our teachers that month or what have you, and pay our bills. There's a lot of things that come into play that we need to have on fund balance. And now we're the better for it at this moment to try to keep maintain and not have to cut and let some of those people that are educating our children go or reduce them.
Thank you. So the next question raises the issue about board listening and parents' availability. So the question reads, many parents feel like the school board do not listen or address very real concerns the district is facing. How do you think you can change this perspective? Aaron?
So I think this perspective, I actually heard this a lot when I was talking to parents. And, as a citizen myself, I've attended a number of board meetings and found myself kind of lost, not sure what was going on exactly, and thinking I would love to be able to ask questions, I would love to be able to interact. And I understand that there's a reason not to have that happen at board meetings themselves, but that's not to say there can't be other opportunities where parents and board members, parents, administrators, parents, and teachers cannot get together and still have conversations with each other. So I truly believe in open, honest, and transparent communication. I think if there's nothing to hide in any of the stakeholders, and I don't believe there is, I think all of the Kaneland people are really working towards positive outcomes. There should be no reason we can't have these kinds of ideas. So I've mentioned this before, there's technology avenues we can look into. So are there ways that we could maybe broadcast the board meeting live and then have people ask questions? If it's not a board meeting, maybe we just have open forums, we have open nights. There should be some ways where we can interact with one another and address the needs of the constituency, because at the end of the day, I truly believe that as a board member, my role is not to be a dictator. My role is to listen to the people, hear what they have to say, and bring that idea to the board, right? That's what the board is supposed to do, it's representative of the constituency, right? So listening to teachers and listening to parents, who are our biggest stakeholders, and trying to find out what they need, what they want, and making those things happen, because we can use action plans, we can use methods to create these things and have them take place. So again, my comment would be open, honest, transparency, and somehow getting people involved. I think technology is one of the best ways to do that.
Thank you. Noah?
So the question was, how do you think you can change the community or the parents' perspective on being able to have their voices heard? One of those ways, of course, like I keep referring back to our FAC and CA committees, but it has to go a little bit further than that as well, too. As a board, we are community members. Most of us are parents and have kids within the district. So being able to listen openly, listen to their ideas and suggestions, but then also ask that difficult question to the parents and the community members. Have you spoken to the principals at the school? Have you talked to the teachers? Have you talked to the administration? Because I truly believe there is a chain of command where you're listening, and it doesn't mean top down. But as a board member, being out there and being visible and listening to the community, it doesn't mean things are going to happen, but you need to show people that you care and that you're going to listen. And then from that, you take those ideas, you take those values and what people are sharing, and a lot of that forms and shapes when you come to the board meeting and start to make decisions. You always want to keep those in the background. But really, in the end of it, is it a perception that the perspective is not there, or is it that we're not doing the best job of communicating with the parents? So we have to think of those other ways, like I shared earlier, using the technology, like even Aaron has referred to as well too, to ensure that we are communicating. But really, it doesn't come down to communicating. It comes down to making sure that we are listening to the community and what their concerns are in any avenue or communication media that we are able to use.
Pedro?
First of all, I'm glad this meeting is being videotaped. It's going to be live sometime later on this week, I believe. Parents, teachers that have children, anybody that wants to listen to it later on, they have busy lives, I know. As myself, we have busy lives, and so opportunities like this for them to listen to what we had to say as they go to the polls, if you will. We've looked at videotaping our meetings. Those questions have come to us as well. We've looked at cost, what it takes, and we can't fit in our budget right now. But there's things are getting cheaper to do and more ideas, so we're willing to listen to ideas as well. As far as being out and about, there's members of our board right now that participate in different things, whether it's theater, whether it's events. I know I'm going to find myself in a lot of sports events just because I'm supporting my son. As a matter of fact, my son had an event going on today, and as I walked out the door, hey, if you guys get bored, if you guys get bored, come to our meeting tonight. And finish up their events. But involvement, participation. We're the advocates of listening and bringing back what we can. But we are, many times I have found, and just to reiterate what Mr. Little said, I advocate to people that they need to go up the channels if they do have issues, because there is an order that they need to follow.
Thank you. Shauna?
I think it is critically important for board members to be very engaged in the community and really understand the community's expectations and concerns. That's clearly a role of being elected, and to be that liaison to establish the trust and communication between the school board and administrators and staff. But I agree that it's very challenging in 140 square miles to make sure I'm reaching, Montgomery and other places. So part of the upside is trying to have a diverse board that is involved, as Pedro said, in different things as well as different geographic locations. So hopefully we have that reach. I also think I can be responsible for myself, and I think that probably the most frustrating thing for someone is to talk to a board member and then feel not listened to, as opposed to maybe not ever seeing a board member. So I think making ourselves available is important, but also when you have those conversations, to truly value the opinion and the people you're talking to. And I think I can do that. But I think people, if they feel heard and listened to, it is a critical piece.
Well, thank you. Thank you all very much. We're at that point in our program now where we're going to ask you each to make a closing statement. Again, you have 3 minutes to do this, and we're going to start with Noah.
It's interesting that our last question tonight was communities and perspectives, and I look out in the audience and I see a number of caring people out here who are board members, administrators, parents. I just wish there were more people here tonight, and there's not, unfortunately. So when we continue to move forward, it's getting that message out to the entire district to let them know that we're here as Kaneland educators, parents, administrators, and we need to have that message out there that everything we do is important, and everything that we do for our students is important as well too. And when I look out there, and it's just like, there's not many people out there tonight. But the people that are here, you're the ones who care. You can take that message back and let them know that you were here tonight, and you were able to hear the 4 board members up who are running here tonight for election this year, for the April 4th election coming up for this coming board election. What I really want to say is the last one is always keep students first and foremost when making decisions. And if I'm elected on this year's school board for the next 4 years, I will always make sure that I listen. And that's one thing I always do as a elementary school principal, is when teachers and students and parents come into my office, the number one thing I do first is I listen to their concerns first. I let them yell and scream at me and do whatever they need to do. And then at the end, I always ask the question, what can I do for you to help you? And that's what I'll do when I come to the board, is for sure listen to the parents, the families, the teachers, the students. Be that person who's there to listen, but then make sure we still follow through the proper protocols and procedures to approve budgets, policies, and to support our superintendent in carrying out the 2020 strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Pedro?
I'll put a twist on what the audience, the amount of audiences out there, in that you can look at it both ways. It also tells me, potentially, that the people are also, happy with what they have to a certain degree. But the thing to also look at it the other way, people are always thinking somebody else is talking for them already. So we never hear them because everybody's thinking they talk for each other and such. But as far as moving forward, students are my key thing. I have 2 children that have gone through the whole system. One is a junior in college right now, and another was a senior. And I've always taught them to embrace the opportunity, use it to your best of the ability, and just soak it up and move forward to the next level. And they have, and we push them ourselves, and they are the better for them. It starts at home, and it starts at home. You get them to the level of coming into the schools, if you will, where the teacher and administration just nourishes what they've learned from home and continue to build up upon it. And I know myself and my wife have done that for our children. There's a lot of people that do that as well. And to make our children take the best of their abilities with them and grow with them. And I'm voted in again. I'd love to certainly take the opportunity to be humble, continue to be humble, hold those that are accountable and responsible for what we're doing all together, and getting our children ready for college or whatever endeavor they choose to pursue.
Thank you. Sean?
So I guess in closing, I'm excited to serve the kids in this district. I think the strategic plan is just in its infancy, but as it develops, I really think the focus on individuals is going to be key, and I'm excited to see what the future brings. I've had experience in the district on the CAC and the FAC, and being a parent as well, with my kids up through high school at this point. So I'm excited what we can achieve together, and I'm excited that the people that are running, I think, are all very interested in putting kids first as well. So I think we'll have a good solid school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron?
So I'll start with something I always express to my students and my kids as well, and that is you should do your best to leave this world in a better place than you found it. And then the most meaningful use of one's life is to pay happiness forward to others. These are 2 things that I kind of use as my personal vision statements, and I believe what they end up being is about service. And so I truly believe that this role is about serving by using my time and my talents, and to be the voice of the people that I serve. I wear many hats, right? So I'm a parent, I was a public school educator for years, and now I'm a faculty member at Levante Community College. And I think all those experiences are what allow me to communicate well with these different groups. Specifically, I believe in happy parents and happy teachers. So I believe happy parents and happy teachers are what is best for our kids. When teachers are happy, our kids are happy. When parents are happy, our kids are happy. And for that to be the case, I'm pro-teacher and pro-community. I'm both. I think that we can make these groups work well together. And I believe that when I was out there talking to people, I met with over 100 different people in different communities, from Sugar Grove all the way to Montgomery and back. They all had the same kind of idea. That they just wanted happiness. They want to be happy, they want their teachers to be happy, and they want their kids to be happy. And I think when they're learning and growing, that's what we're doing. So I continue to say this, I'll be that voice for those people. I can do it, I think, because of my background, but also my skills and my talents, and also my ability to talk with people and to just listen to what they have to say. I believe you do it fiscally responsibly, so there's a way to do all these things, accomplish all the things we want, and still have a balanced budget at the end of the day. And then lastly, I'll say this, that I think one of the ways we reach out is we connect with the community, we connect with the local businesses, we connect with the colleges, and we talk with them and try to build this coalition between parents, teachers, and the community itself. So we'll serve first and foremost, and I want to give a big thank you again one more time to the KEA and the CAC. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we're at the point in our program where we're coming to a close. There are many, many people to thank. First and foremost, our 4 individuals willing to give a lot of their time in the next 4 years, basically, as I recall. They are going to be committing to this. And so therefore, I think we'd all like to thank Shauna, Aaron, Noah, and Pedro for the time that they were willing to volunteer to our community. It certainly takes a community to put on a program like this, and make it work. And inevitably, I will forget to acknowledge someone. So I'm just going to acknowledge groups. As was just done a moment ago, we want to thank the KEA and the CAC, their leadership and their members for taking the time this evening and putting this all together. We sincerely appreciate your service to our community. I want to once again thank the board members and the administrators that are here this evening and to open up Kaneland Schools to allow us to have this event. It's these kinds of events that build community that are important for us to make good and sound judgments. So once again, thanks to the board and the administrators. And finally, thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. We all know you have many different places you could be, many different things you could be doing, but you chose to come here tonight because you know how important the board positions are to our community. So once again, thank you and have a great evening. Good night.